Hi, this is Sue Jackson, and I'm here today with another Friday Reads, my weekly wrap-up of what me and the rest of my family have been reading. I am thoroughly immersed in and completely enjoying some fall reading events. The RIP, Readers Imbibing Peril annual event. This is its 20th year. It's hosted on Instagram. I'll include the link below, but it's simply use the hashtag RIPXX for 20. And it's hosted at Peril Readers on Instagram. I've been doing it for many, many years as a blogger and then as a booktuber. I am also, for the very first time, enjoying Shorty September. RIP is simply read darker stuff in fall, whatever that means for you. And I never realized how perfectly that fits together with Shorty September. So I have been flying through shorter, fast-paced books and just really enjoying it. And I'm also participating in the Book Cougars podcast's Year of Reading Ghost Stories. So all of those are going on this month and I'm really enjoying it. I finished reading Dark Ride by Lou Berney. I loved this book. It was so good. Last year at this time, I read Berney's November Road, which he won the Edgar Award for. That book was not a fluke. That's the way he writes. This book was just as good. I maybe even liked it a little better than November Road, though they're both excellent. So yes, it's a thriller and a mystery, but there's so much more to it than that. The main character here is 21-year-old Hardy Reid, who everyone his whole life has called Hardly. And that's fitting because Hardly's just kind of cruising through life. His brother from foster care is like really ambitious and working on his career and always encouraging Hardly to do that. Hardly tried some college, dropped out, still owes money from that. He is working at an amusement park as a scarer in their haunted frontier attraction. And he's fine with that. Hardly says he is very content with his life. Probably mostly because he's stoned all the time. And he's hanging out with his old friends from high school, getting stoned, watching old TV, and he tells his foster brother he's perfectly content. And then one day, while waiting in line to get a delay on paying his parking ticket, not to pay it. First, before I tell you what happened while he's waiting in line, I'm going to read you a short couple of sentences that perfectly describe Hardly. We inch forward. Down the hall to my right, a guy is kicking a closed door. The woman is still pacing and muttering. Two dudes in line behind me argue loudly and irately, first about some quarterback, then about some politician, and then about Sonic Burgers versus Whataburger. It must be exhausting to have so many strong opinions. I only have mild preferences, and usually not even that. So that's Hardly, just kind of gliding through life. And then, while he's waiting in line, he also notices two little kids sitting on a bench by themselves. And what he notices is that they're not acting like little kids usually act. They're not fidgeting, they're not playing, they're not even swinging their legs. They're just sitting and staring straight ahead. And it kind of freaks him out. And he's also worried because he doesn't know much about kids, but these two look way too young to be all alone. So when he's done at the counter, he goes over, crouches down to talk to the kids. Very thoughtful. He said he doesn't want to appear like Godzilla to them. There's a lot of humor in here as well. And, you know, he's just very Hardly like, hey, little dudes, what's going on? And he notices even when he's right in front of them, these two little kids just have like 1,000-yard stare. They are just nobody home. They're just sitting and staring. And he's kind of worried about them, and he's trying to engage them in conversation when he notices that the little girl on her ankle has 3 cigarette burns in a perfect line. And he looks over at the boy. His ankles are covered, but his shirt's too big for him, and he notices the same thing on the boy. 3 cigarette burns in a perfect line on his collarbone. He's stunned by this, of course. And a minute later, the kid's mom comes out. She hustles them away. She can see him looking at them, hustles them away. He follows them out to the parking lot, sees them get into a car with a man who's driving and take off. Well, Hardly finds he can't go back to his ordinary life. He is just so upset by these 2 little kids and the abuse he assumes they're suffering. And he wants to do something to help them. And he tries Child Protective Services, but immediately sees that they're overwhelmed. They're not going to follow up, at least not for a very long time, if they ever get to it. And for the first time in his life, Hardly takes responsibility. And he starts his own investigation into trying to find these kids. And he knows nothing. He just saw them in the municipal building and trying to get them out of harm's way. That's what this is all about. And it is absolutely a fast-paced thriller, a mystery. You know, who is this family? Where do they live? Who's doing this to the kids? How could Hardly possibly do anything to help them? But there is so much more to this book as well. It's a very short novel. It works for Shorty September. But somehow the author has packed in so much character development and emotional depth. And you really get to know Hardly as Hardly is getting to know himself. So it is not just a thriller. It is also all about identity, figuring out who you are, figuring out your purpose in life. Just really moving, heartwarming, hilariously laugh out loud funny at many points, as well as a thriller. I loved it. The ending I've got mixed feelings about. I can see how it's the perfect ending, but I also feel like there were some loose ends there that I wish the author had tied up. That while I can see how it is the right ending, I also feel like the ending didn't take into consideration the other characters. Because along the way, Hardly kind of puts his own team together and discovers he's got more people in his life than just those old high school friends. So it's got depth, it's got humor, it's got suspense. Wonderful, wonderful novel. For Shorty September, and it took me a while, and a pair of reading glasses. Note to the host, maybe next year make the print a little bigger. But I finally put it under Culottes, which is a book that looks like one thing, but is, sorry, I still can't read that word, but is another. And I think that fits perfectly for here. Yes, it's a thriller, but it's also this wonderful character study about finding your purpose in life. So I continued my routine for this month of in between books. I am reading a short story from the Penguin Book of Ghost Stories from Elizabeth Gaskell to Ambrose Bierce, edited by Michael Newton. Selected by Michael Newton. This is one of the Book Cougars read-alongs, this one for the whole year. So they've been reading and discussing one ghost story each month. And I got behind because of my trip. So I'm trying to catch up on that by slotting them in between my shorty books. So I think since I last talked to you, I read 2. Amelia B. Edwards' The North Mail, and by Charles Dickens, one of my favorite authors, #1 branch line, The Signal Man. Interestingly, these were both transportation ghost stories, and I enjoyed both of them very much. The first one is something a little different, sort of a haunted carriage, and it was excellent. The second one, the Dickens one, I thought had a really great twist at the end that the reader isn't expecting. It goes in a direction you don't see coming. So I thought that was very well done as well. I've also decided to get back to a book I started more than a year ago, 50 Beasts to Break Your Heart and Other Stories by Jenna Rose Nethercott. Jenna Rose was one of the authors at Booktopia in 2024, and I read the first few stories in here before I met her at Booktopia. It's fantasy, fairy tale kind of stuff, which isn't normally my jam, but it is really appropriate for the RIP season and fall, and certainly moving into October. So I've decided to pick this back up and read one of these in between each book as well. So the one I just read was Foxjaw. Many of these have to do with animals. They're weird. And I found Foxjaw especially weird. The first book in here, Sundown at the Eternal Staircase, was also weird, but I liked it. It was intriguing. Foxjaw I just found confusing. It's about a woman dating a man who she says is sometimes a fox. And she means that literally. Yeah. So there was some really weird stuff in this one. So we'll see how the rest of this goes. Like I said, it's not my usual kind of thing. Fantasy, fairy tale type stuff. But the booksellers at Northshire Books, who host Booktopia, rarely steer me wrong. So my next novel for Shorty September and RIP is a classic, The Hound of the Baskervilles by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, a Sherlock Holmes novel. I've never, really a novella, I've never read anything by Doyle before. I've never read any Sherlock Holmes. I've read some more modern takes on Holmes, and certainly I've seen so many movies and TV shows, but I've never actually read the original. So I just started The Hound of the Baskervilles yesterday. The man that comes to see Holmes is the medical doctor, a country doctor, and one of his patients, who he was actually good friends with, has just died. Kind of a mysterious death. And it's been ruled natural causes. It seems like he died of a heart attack. But there is a legend, a myth associated with the estate that this man lived on and with his family at this estate, and a few clues at the crime scene that gave this doctor the idea that there could be something else going on. But the something else he thinks is supernatural. So this is, I think, from what I know of Holmes, something different for Holmes, is looking at, that's the question the doctor wants him to answer. Did this man die of natural causes, or is this something supernatural? So the kind of curse of this family, the Baskervilles, is that one of their ancestors back in the 1600s, really horrible, cruel guy, was killed by basically what people describe as a hellhound. Ever since then, you know, the rumors have circulated everyone in the area believes in this legend, and that's what the doctor wants to find out. Is the hellhound real, and is that what really killed this guy? So I think it's kind of an unusual case for Sherlock Holmes, of the little that I know, mostly based on adaptations. But it's good so far, and I'm enjoying it. The writing's very good. I'm enjoying the relationship between Holmes and Watson. And yeah, I'm looking forward to, I have no idea where this is going to go. On audio, I finished listening to The Covenant of Water by Abraham Verghese. An amazing novel. I understand now why everybody has been raving about it for the last few years. It's been a favorite for Big Book Summer since it was released a few years ago. I get it. It is just this stunning, beautifully written family saga beginning in 1900 and going through the 1970s of multiple generations in this family. It begins with the 12-year-old bride in 1900 who ends up becoming the matriarch of this wonderful family. But there's a lot of tragedy in this family, and much of the tragedy has to do with water and drownings. So there's this belief in this family that certain members of the family have what they call the condition, where they're prone to drowning. So it doesn't make a lot of sense at first, but the way this story comes together, so much of the story is about this family, but then there's another narrative thread that eventually fits together with it, and I love when that happens in a novel, about a Scottish guy named Digby who moved to India. It's all set in India. I should have mentioned that because that's really important. The setting is amazing here. Lush and tropical, so beautifully described. So Digby ends up in India as well, a Scottish doctor, and he ends up practicing medicine there. And it all comes together in the end. There were some big surprises toward the end. I just loved every moment of this. I kept hitting pause and pulling out my phone to write some quotes down. Verghese he's got a way with words in terms of pithy quotes that just kind of sum up life, real life that I could relate to. But he's also writes beautifully, lyrical language. And he's a doctor himself, so the medical stuff is very real and accurate as well. Fabulous book from start to finish, highly recommended, and it was excellent on audio. Now I've been catching up a little bit in between audiobooks. Like I said, the Book Cougars podcast has been talking about these ghost stories all year long. So I'm going back to old episodes where I hit pause when they started talking about the ghost story. And I'm going back now as I finish each story to listen to their discussion on it. So I'm enjoying that. And my next audiobook that I plan to start today I think is going to be a fun one because I grew up watching this TV show. The Ghost and Mrs. Muir. Oh, I have no idea who the author is. I'll have to put that up here. It just caught my eye. I get emails from Chirp, an audiobook app, and very often they have these really cheap audiobooks. I don't spend much money on audiobooks or on any books for myself. I usually use Libby for the library. But this one caught my eye. I think it was $1.99. I grew up watching The Ghost and Mrs. Muir on TV, and this is the novel that was based on. So, and it's a shorty, and it fits for both the year of reading ghost stories and RIP. So it works with all three of my fall reading events. So I'm looking forward to that. And just quickly, my husband is still reading The Plot by Jean Hanff Korelitz. He has hardly moved the bookmark at all since last week. The reason is, it is football season. He's really into college football, and now that he's retired, he's gotten a little more into NFL as well. His team, Oklahoma State, is off to a really horrible start. I mean, really bad. He's just, he is grieving. But he watches other college football to see who's against his team. I don't know. It's a whole thing. So he's staying up a lot at night watching football instead of reading. But we're going on a camping trip at the end of this week, and I know he'll have plenty of reading time then. I can't wait for him to get to the part of this novel where the surprises come fast and furious. And it is so twisty that you just say out loud, "What?" And then flip back to see, wait, what? It's great. It's a really twisty literary thriller. And I checked in with our 31-year-old son yesterday. He's back home in Long Island. He came to visit last weekend, which was wonderful. So I asked him, we were texting back and forth yesterday, and I asked him what he's reading. And he said, instead of the books that we gave him for his birthday, while he was here, he also visited his favorite used bookstore. It's Second and Charles. I think it's a chain, but we've got one here in Delaware, and he does not have one on Long Island. So he went there and got some books for himself. So he's reading one of those. It's a little shorter than the chunksters we got him for his birthday. So that makes sense. He's been working really long hours. It's called Map's Edge by David Hare. It was published in 2020, and it's book one in the Tethered Citadel series. So he's looking forward to that. The cover is beautiful. I think that would attract me alone. He loves fantasy, epic fantasy, but there's a certain kind of fantasy he likes. Swords, not guns, anything set, historically in an older time, magic for sure. Not that into dragons anymore. He liked that when he was younger. In fact, he told us while he was visiting that he has been searching for any kind of fantasy novels that play with ancient Rome, that are set in ancient Rome, but fantasy. So if you know of anything like that, please let me know in the comments down below. And also, I would love to hear what you're reading this week. Let me know in the comments down below. Take a moment to like and subscribe.